Hello and welcome back to another Magic Arena video. I am Magic's-Fen, and today I'm doing something a little different than my usual videos. So coming up over the next 2 weekends are a couple of Arena Qualifier Play-ins, both of which have Historic as the format. One is Best of 1 and the other is Best of 3. So I wanted to showcase 5 proactive decks that I think could be a good choice for the tournaments. I'll be focusing on Best of 1, but I think that any of these could be a good choice for Best of 3 as well, with a good sideboard put together. So jumping right in here, we've got the Scourge of the Ladder. It's blue-red wizards. If you haven't seen this deck, it basically is exactly as the deck name describes. It runs a bunch of wizards that all get larger when you cast instants or sorceries. If you're familiar with Symmetry Sage, you might not know the Arena version, which is an 0/3 and makes target creature have base power 3 until end of turn. So you put out a bunch of wizards, you cast spells, make them big, you play burn spells pointed at the opponent's face, and you do enough damage to kill very, very quickly. Let's take this one onto the ladder. Alright, we got a pretty good looking wizard hand here. We've got 1-drop, 2-drop, and a bunch of spells. Wizard's Lightning is one of the best spells in the deck, so we'll keep that one. Yeah, turns out Lightning Bolt is pretty good. Do like Mentor's Guidance as well. Up against a mountain. It could be goblins or it could be burn. Most likely burn. Looks like our Soulscar Mage is going down. Oh, do you see that? Bone Crusher Giant's a title there. Interesting. It's questionable whether I should be playing this, but given they played Bone Crusher, I don't think they're just like a burn deck. I think they're red, so they're going to have a little harder of a time dealing with a 1-3 than a 1-2. There's another mountain. Eidolon of the Great Revel. We are going to burn that if we can. And they're casting a Reckless Charge of their own. So good news is they're taking a good amount of damage. Bad news is so are we. Symmetry Sage, you say? Alright, let's play our Symmetry Sage. Whoops, I should have resolved those in a different order, even though, well, I'd be missing out on some damage, so I am taking 2 here. So let's resolve that, take that down. Let's charge our Sage. Give it base power 3. And you can see how we're already hitting for 13 here. It's just a humongous amount of damage, just like so quickly. Opponent plays Ramunap Ruins. Let's see if they can take out our creatures here. Or just kill us. It would be pretty hard to kill us from this position. Doesn't seem right to be playing mono red and having an Ajani avatar. But you can see here exactly why the Wizards decks have advantages over mono red. Like, look how much damage we just did in 1 turn. That was almost their entire life total. Plus, then we get stuff like Mentor's Guidance, Consider, and let's not forget about the best card in the deck, Expressive Iteration, still legal in Historic somehow. And so this is why Wizards is such a powerful option. Deck number 2. This is Putrid Goblin Combo. And so this is a deck I played a full video of before. Not too many changes from the last video. I did add a couple Reckless Handlings, which is a new card that lets you search for an artifact with like a gamble aspect to it. This deck I think is quite powerful, but it gets a lot of its wins from a surprise factor, so this one I would recommend a little bit more for the best of 1 tournament. But it's got good interaction, we got Fatal Push, we've got Thoughtseize, and the combo just comes together very consistently. Explain the combo real quick. You get a Putrid Goblin and an Altered Dementia. So you can sack Putrid Goblin to the Altered Dementia. Putrid Goblin comes back with a -1/-1 counter. However, if you have Metallic Mimic or Thran Vigil out when the Putrid Goblin comes back, it gets a +1/+1 counter when it does, and that cancels out the -1/-1 counter, and with Altered Dementia, it can come back indefinitely and mill your opponent out. So let's take it onto the ladder. This is a pretty okay hand, but we're missing any way to find the altar. And really, we need... Okay, I like this hand. We are missing red, but otherwise, I think we're looking pretty good. Up against another Lurrus deck. I'll definitely Thoughtseize. See what opponent is up to and what we need to play around. So this is black-white humans. I can block a recruitment officer. I think I just want the Juggernaut Peddler to go peddle his wares somewhere else. There's the officer. And I'm just going to play Trap Finder. That'll help shut down attacks. Play the Altar of Dementia. Pass the turn. Playing Altar now prevents awkward mana situations with Thalia in the future. Speaking of Thalia. Nope. Attacks from the opponent. It's a little awkward. Don't have a ton. I'm gonna put the Lurrus into hand. No attacks, pass. No idea what my opponent is doing. Well, I mean, I know what they're doing, but no idea what's in their hand, what they're about to do. Okay, we've got an Evangel. Just going to tap down my land. It's fine, I'm not using that anyways. And then this one's going to tap down my Trap Finder. And I'm just going to sack it here. See if I can go off. Look at that! Look at that! We take a cool 6, 7, 8 damage. Oh my goodness, we're gonna die next turn. But wait. Metallic Mimic. Naming a Goblin. And a Goblin. And the loop has begun. Look at that. Say goodbye to your deck. And this is really why I love this deck so much, is just because it can win out of nowhere. Doesn't always matter, rarely matters what the opponent's doing, you just win. It's difficult to interact with. And I really am a huge fan of the Goblin that searches up creature cards. I think this Trap Finder is just a very powerful alchemy card that they introduced here. Give this a couple more loops here, and if opponent doesn't concede, we will pause the video. Alright, and it took us all the way down to about 12 cards left in the deck, but opponent did eventually concede the game. But yeah, this deck remains quite powerful. The thing it does is really hard to stop. People don't see it coming. Good one for the best of one tournament, would recommend for that. Let's move on to the next deck though. Up next on the list we've got an Indomitable Creativity deck. Now this card has been wrecking almost every format, from Modern, Pioneer, Historic, and also making an appearance. So very familiar looking stuff that you might have seen in other formats. We've got Big Score here, which lets us draw more cards and create treasure tokens. We get Fable of the Mirror Breaker, noted standard banner card, gone for good now. Shark Typhoon makes tokens. Seek New Knowledge is a good one in Historic only. It lets us put a card from our hand onto the bottom of our library. So if we draw our Atraxa, we get to put it back in the deck. Then otherwise we were looking at some hard evidence for token makers, but the rest is interaction basically. We got some counter spells, we got some burn spells. Very solid deck. This is probably one of the best ones to run in best of 3. Let's take it onto the ladder. I think a hand with 3 Volcanic Spikes is not one we can keep, so we're going to mulligan that. And here we got something that looks a lot nicer. So we're going to keep this and put a land back. I guess this Sokenzan is going to be the one. Lead on Spire Bluff Canal here. Yeah, let's lead on Spire Bluff and play the Hard Evidence. They got Gigantha, so this is probably Wizards. Here's a Wizard, yep. Play our land, pass the turn. They've got a Storm-Carved Coast. Let's see what their 1-mana spell is. It's a this. Well, we're gonna make this appear. That'll limit a lot of the damage they can put out. And they're gonna burn our crab and attack and burn the crab again. That's not too bad for us. Seems like we did mess with their plans. Play Steam Vents tapped, pass the turn. And this Change the Equation is going to be quite good, hopefully. They didn't even get to do anything with the Dreadhorde. Second Dreadhorde. Yeah, I guess we'll counter that. I assume their last card is another creature. Either that or a land, I guess. Static Discharge, sure. No problem. We'll just do our thing over here. They're completely out of cards. And it's pretty hard for that deck to beat an Atraxa. Play another Creativity just in case. And yep, they're done. So, and this is how you can see this deck can just kind of win against a lot of stuff. You get an Atraxa out early, and that's generally enough. I think in the best of one queues, I was playing the best of one tournament, I might run one of the instant win combos instead of the Atraxas. Sometimes these opposing decks can go pretty wide, and they can actually go over the top of a resolved Atraxa. So you might want to consider playing Sage of the Falls plus the Locust God instead of 2 Atraxas, and just try and hit the Indomitable Creativity for 2. But that is a Creativity deck. Let's move on to the next one. Deck number 4, the Scourge of Explorer now, or Explorer/Pioneer. It's Greasefang. So, Greasefang shows up a lot in other formats, but not so often in Historic. But I think this is a really cool and interesting take on it. So, it's more bringing in the legendary creatures that we see in Standard. So we see Raffine here. Crucius is one of the most powerful cards in Historic right now. We've got Thalia. And then the lower end, Esper Sentinel, Raffine's Informant help us cycle away our Parhelions. Goblin Engineer goes through your library and puts an artifact card, namely one of these vehicles, into the graveyard, so you can do a curve that's like Esper Sentinel into Goblin Engineer, into Greasefang, attack with Parhelion for 13 in the air. Inquisitor Captain's another really cool include. It lets you go through your deck. Well, you don't go through your deck. You seek 2 creature cards and you put one of them into play. That can often be the Greasefang, whatever side of the missing piece you need. And otherwise, this deck kind of plays like an aggro white deck on the low end. So, very cool take on Greasefang. I think this deck is pretty well positioned. Let's take this one out for a spin. Alright, kind of a funky hand, but we can do a Esper Sentinel into a Raffine, hopefully get this Parhelion into the graveyard. We'll try this one. Lead on the Seachrome Coast. I think we're going to get Thoughtseized here, which unfortunately is probably taking our Esper Sentinel. So now we're not going to be doing anything for a while. With that, we're going to play this Godless Shrine tapped. We would have had such a nice curve, too. Play the Seachrome Coast. Here comes the Blood Tithe Harvester, probably. Kroxa, okay. Well, I don't mind discarding a Parhelion, that's for sure. So that will go to the graveyard. We've got a Mana Confluence, and here's our Thalia. See what their follow-up is. I wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of creature kill here. Another Thoughtseize, probably taking their Fiend now. No, they take the Crucius. Well, good for us, we drew out of it. Now, I'm not sure which one is actually correct here. I think their Fiend's a little better, honestly. So let's swing in with Thalia. Do a little conniving. Get the Parhelion out of here. Hit for 3. It's pretty hard for them to get rid of this stuff. Like, if you want to push it, you have to sacrifice something and pay for 2. Or you have to destroy the Thalia first. And that is what they do. They pay 2 for a push on the Thalia. Alright, so now let's hit in with the Rafine. Goblin Engineer is not a card we need right now. We've got tons of ways to put... Or we got 2 Parhelions in the graveyard, so let's get rid of that. Play the Crucius, pass the turn. I'll get rid of the land. Go for Greater. We got an Inquisitor Captain. There's the Temple of Malice, the Palace of Malice. And a Trespasser, which is going to get one of our vehicles. No, it's not. Interesting. Oops, they say. Fascinating. Well, I'll play the Captain. I don't really know what they're doing here, but we are winning the game. Doesn't really matter that they didn't get the right one. We got the Parhelion. We had 2 Parhelions in our graveyard, so even if they had gotten 1 Parhelion out of the yard, I could have just got the other one here, so no big deal either way. And look at how much damage we're pushing right now. So we've got the 13 from the Parhelion, we've got the Rafine is going to be conniving, and we've got the Crucius. So when we attack, probably the Crucius would get the boost. Say if they're at like 25 right now, Crucius gets the boost, can attack through the Trespasser. Rafine hitting for 2, that's like 20 damage on its own. And you can see how this early like disruptive start just like put so much pressure on our opponent to play their Thoughtseize on the Thalia instead of on the Greasefang or something else that could have made a much bigger difference. So just like taxing their mana a little bit like that really put the screws to our Rakdos opponent. So very cool take on Greasefang. I like this deck a lot. Let's go on to our final showcase deck. Last and certainly not least, we've got this Auras deck. So this deck has been known, it's been around historic since pretty much the very start of the format. It has changed over time, the biggest addition being Light-Paws, letting us pull out random auras from our deck. But the rest of it's very similar. We have Saram and Kor Spiritdancer here, drawing cards every time we play an aura. We've got Selfless Savior for some protection. We've got some Skrelves now in the deck, also a little bit of protection. Otherwise, we just load up some giant creature. We do have Invisible Stalker now too, so we can just get in, unblock damage. Yeah, this deck still very powerful, but people have been sleeping on it a little bit. Definitely recommend taking this one for a spin, and so let's give it a shot. Unfortunately, can't keep that hand. We'll put that back. We'll keep this one. We've got a Light-Paws. We've got an Invisible Stalker. I'll put the Ghost form back, I think. We'll lead on Stalker on 2. And put out our Mana Confluence here. A little too much Mana Confluence for sure. Our opponent has a Gigantha, so they're probably on Wizards. Play our Stalker, take 1. There's the Consider. Symmetry Sage. There's a Reckless Charge to hit us for 6. Okay, that does change a few things, I think. Well, let's do this. I'm going to put Ethereal Armor on my Stalker. find something to boost. I think I like combat research here. Now, if they want to kill the Light-Paws, it's going to take a lot. Okay, they got a Battle Mage, Captain. And they're going to play with fire. So we're taking 5 this turn. Any two-cost aura could win here, but it's unfortunately not the case. Let's go search something up. Can do 8. What does the most damage? It's this. You can't block. 10. I think this is enough damage. That's 12. Yep, and just enough. Got 14 exactly. Oof. That was really tight, really tight. Oh boy. Yeah, this deck, it does a lot of powerful things. It is a bit more glass cannon-y. I find that it does hurt a lot that our 1-drops don't really affect the board. They're just set up for turn 2. Turn 3, if you get to turn 3 and your opponent is not like interacting with you that much, you can really go off. But I think that is the one weakness of this deck, is it's not really putting up any defense or resistance until you get to turn 3. If they disrupt you, then it gets a lot harder. But yeah, this deck's still very powerful, as we can see here, doing good old 14 Exacxies to the face. Let's go to the wrap-up. Well, I hope you all found that informative, a good take at the historic metagame. Hopefully give you some ideas of what to play this weekend if you're playing in the Qualifier Play-in. And I'm ending here with the Greasefang deck up because I think this is the deck that I'll be playing. It feels the most powerful to me, the most consistent. Doesn't even really matter that often if you get to play the full Greasefang combo. Sometimes you can just win with the creatures, and every card in here is like a must-answer threat. I think this deck is just a work of art. If I haven't said the name before, I believe I based this list off of someone in a historic opening by the name of Juggalo Whoop. Must be a fan of Insane Clown Posse, but this is what I would recommend playing this weekend, and probably what I'm going to be playing. So, thank you again all for watching. I hope you found this informative. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will catch you in the next one.